I thought quite a lot about when I first started being interested in making things, and it was when I was quite young. I remember at school, we in the infants, one of the projects we made was making a Christmas tree, and I remember we had to collect cotton reels, and then we stuck a bit of a Christmas tree in it. And I was just really excited by the idea that you could make something so simply. And then later on realising that I was been influenced quite a lot by my mother who sews, and that the first blanket we had was a patchwork blanket that my mum made of our old dresses. Mum used to make really wonderful hats for us to go to church, and I don't remember being interested in church, but I remember being really excited about dressing up in these clothes my mother made. So I think those were early sorts of interests. I'm interested in sort of cultural dynamics in a wider psychological context, and place and migration. In terms of my parents coming from the Caribbean and a history of generational migration, and seeing how people move from continent to continent, and the kind of interactions in the respective culture, place where people move to. And then, for instance, seeing the food, for instance. So one of the projects I want to work on is food, because people want to have the food that they're accustomed to. So that the vegetable is a way of talking metaphorically about some of these kinds of bigger, wider associations and cultural meaning. But also I quite like the stacks of cushions, the different kinds of cushions that fruit and vegetables are stacked in. That kind of, the shape, they're all a bit like egg boxes. So the receptacles, I like those. And stacking is how to make sense of one's reality in terms of the environment one's in. I mean, for instance, just a sense of politics in America is different to how I grew up with a sense of the cultural identification in England, although there are similarities and overlaps. So stacking and ordering is a way to establish a kind of order. First of all, it's really nice to have an opportunity to make work, more new work. And it's nice to have an opportunity in the country, because I'm back and forth quite a lot. And it's quite important for me to get to know, have a sense of where I'm working, the context. I don't like the idea of just going somewhere and doing a residency that has no kind of connection with the place I'm working in. The fact that I've been an artist all my adult life, and I have done quite a lot of residencies, I have a sense that it would at least be an experience that sort of challenges some of my perceptions about residencies and what they could mean.
Veronica's making a number of new pieces for the residency exhibition here at the Art House. And one of those pieces will be the co-commission for the Hepworth. She's working on lots of different elements in collaboration with Eleanor, the curator at the Hepworth, to really identify which piece will live there in the Masterpieces gallery. Veronica has been using a number of different materials to create the sculptures. One of the things she's doing is casting fruit cushions and making casts of traditional fruit and vegetables from the Caribbean islands, such as Montserrat. And so she's making really interesting new shapes with some of the fruit and also with the cushions.
Stitching and the casting. The residency has been very intriguing in lots of ways because I've done quite a lot of residencies before, but I think this residency has been very particular, first of all because it facilitates lots of different kinds of disabilities, and so I was aware of that right at the beginning and what that actually meant in terms of practice. What I found particularly interesting is just having conversations with lots of different people about work in its different stages. And I think what distinguishes this residency in terms of making things and talking about ideas is that people were responding to work in its very early stages. So when I was thinking about tie-dyeing, for instance, and I was beginning to put rubber bands on pillowcases, people were coming up and talking about the rubber bands and the pillowcases and how much they liked the work at that stage. And it wouldn't have occurred to me actually to leave the work at that point. So dialogues and conversations with people just coming in and remarking about the process became quite an essential part of how the work got made. I came in with some ideas about what I wanted to do, and then some of the interactions with people began to influence the way some of the work got made. And I think that this residency is where I've been the most conscious of that.